Is Bitcoin gearing up for a massive breakout, or are we heading into a deeper correction? Right now, the market is split. Long-term holders aren't selling, institutional interest is quietly ramping up, and even GameStop is jumping into Bitcoin. But at the same time, price action is stuck. Resistance levels are holding strong, and macro uncertainties is weighing heavily on investor confidence. In this video, we've pulled insight from some of the top minds in the space, analyzing technicals, on-chain data, and macro trends. We've also broken down the biggest headlines shaping sentiment from this week, from Fed policy shifts to regulatory rollbacks and political wins for crypto advocates. We're not here to tell you what to believe, we're here to explore the data, consider the narratives, and walk you through where it all might be pointing. The overall sentiment towards Bitcoin it's mixed, but leaning cautiously bullish. Many analysts are pointing out that on a macro level, Bitcoin is still holding above its 50-week moving average, which has historically been a strong line of support during bull markets. From that lens, the structure remains intact, and the higher timeframe trend continues to show strength that's fueling some optimism, particularly among those focused on long-term positioning. At the same time, short-term price action has been less exciting. A number of professionals note that Bitcoin has been struggling to convincingly break above key resistance levels, most notably the 84,450 region. Until we see a clean break with follow-through, many remain skeptical of any immediate breakout potential. Some are even suggesting we might still be in the midst of a corrective phase, watching for one more push down, possibly targeting levels in the low 80k range or even the high 70. There's also been growing awareness of the relationship between Bitcoin and traditional markets like the S&P 500. A few analysts believe any meaningful upside for crypto likely hinges on strength in equities, with both markets showing recent signs of hesitation. This correlation could be a limiting factor for now. Interestingly, while retail sentiments feels fearful and uncertain, some professionals see that as a contrarian indicator. They're highlighting how moments of extreme pessimism often align with strong buying opportunities, especially when the fundamental structure hasn't broken down. A few voices in the space are even pointing to global liquidity conditions, seasonal patterns, and ETF flows as potential tailwinds. These perspectives suggest that while short-term sharp might continue, the underlying condition for a significant move higher are starting to take shape. So overall, the mood isn't overly bullish or bearish. It's more of a caution, watch and wait. The technicals basically say not yet, and the macro says maybe soon or at any time. I would personally see this as uncertainty, while the trend itself is not that clear. However, if we look at the bigger trend scaling out, we see that the larger trend is still intact. Let's now take a look at some of the latest headlines shaping the crypto landscape and explore how they might impact the market sentiment moving forward, basically positioning ourselves ahead. One of the more attention-grabbing developments this week comes from GameStop. The company has officially completed a $1.5 billion convertible debt raise, with part of these funds earmarked to acquire Bitcoin and dollar-pegged stablecoins. While that's a notable show of institutional interest, especially from a legacy retail brand, the market response was muted. GameStop's stock initially jumped but quickly gave back all those gains, possibly reflecting investors' concerns about the company's core business, rather than excitement about its crypto move. Still, it adds to a growing list of public firms holding Bitcoin on their balance sheets. Meanwhile, new on-chain data from Glassnode shows that long-term holders, particularly those who bought between 2020 and 2022, are largely staying put. Despite Bitcoin reaching an all-time high of 109k, this group has shown little interest to sell. On the flip side, short-term holders have shown more volatility, but overall we're not seeing the kind of speculative frenzy that usually signals a market top. That adds to the idea of a more tempered and steady bull cycle so far. On the macro side, BitMEXC co-founder Arthur Hayes made headlines with a bold prediction. If the US Federal Reserve pivots fully to quantitative easing, Bitcoin could climb as high as 250,000 by the end of the year. He points to the Fed's reduction in Treasury runoff as an early sign that this pivot may already be underway. While that's a highly optimistic forecast, it's grounded in the idea that rising global liquidity tends to support risky assets like Bitcoin. That said, most market participants remain more more conservative in their expectations. When we look at the market and our actual performance here using our indicator and strategy, we can see that Bitcoin has actually performing really well, even if it's in a downtrend. That's because we do short the market as well. Just doing a quick check here on Bitcoin, we can see that we are minus around 14%, but since we are shorting and we are trading with 2x leverage, so that's 28% gains just on Bitcoin. And if we check in on Ethereum, we see a solid downtrend that's been very easy to trade. We have one little fake out here in the beginning, so if we measure from that instead of the actual top, we can see that here it flipped into red. If we measure from here, we see a 40% downtrend with 2x leverage. That's 80% gains in one solid trade. Now it's over 80 days, but that is how our strategy works. We trade trends on a slower time frame. It's not day trading, it's trend trading. That is what we do, and that is the strategy that I use. Checking in on Solana, we have a very similar story, just printing straight gains, minus 38%, or well, roughly 40% gains, giving us 80% gains with 2x leverage, trading it the exact same way that we trade Ethereum. Checking in on Story or IP here, we can see a solid downtrend confirmation on the 4-hour time frame, a perfect opportunity to short the project. And for those of you that have bought the indicator and are shorting this project right now, congratulations. You are already in profit. With 2x leverage, you're looking at almost 60% gains already. But the most amazing part here is that the 4-hour time frame has been turned into a downtrend on the daily time frame as well. And if it continues just for a little bit longer, we could easily see over 100% gains in a single trade. This is looking absolutely fantastic. If we think about this from a logical perspective, the crypto market appears to be in a coiled state, structurally sound on a macro level. It basically needs a reason before it breaks higher. So personally, I am doing the trend trading and waiting for the catalyst.